My hope and prayer is this is the beginning of a long, long, faithful journey that will take us to heights unseen before. So this morning, our text from the book of Hebrews, as we think about that race that is set before us, hitting the ground running. Now, once upon a time, I would say I was a runner, and people would kind of look at me, and they would kind of look, and they would look again, and they would say, well, how exactly does that much weight run down the road? Now, thankfully, over the past couple years, I got some friends here from my boot camp. I do a boot camp workout at 5:55 in the morning. I'm not a morning person. Shannon can tell you I am not a morning person, but my dear friend Chip Owens kept challenging me and kept encouraging me. Jimmy's here this morning, has put up with me a lot of these mornings. We get up and we do all kind of crazy things, running up and down Peachtree, up near E Rivers and all around town. We run down this way and up that way. But over the past couple of years, I actually have started semi-looking like a runner when I say I'm a runner. Running is one of my outlets. It's one of those things I do to release all those things inside. And it's a time for me to get energized and renewed. I love running, the discipline of it. I started in high school, and you'll hear more about that next week as we gather after the Peachtree Road Race. You'll hear more about that time. But over the past couple of years, I really, in fact, have started hitting some of my personal records, PRs, runners like to call them, when I'm running faster now than I ever have in my life at the almost ripe old age of 39. So it's amazing to think about that. A couple weeks ago, I was running with Ansley and Kyle. They're here this morning, and Ansley just has a house just off Grant Park, and so Ansley and Kyle invited me. They've been preparing for the Peachtree Road Race, and they invited me to come and run with them, and so we were running clockwise around the track there at Grant Park, and I noticed that there were two distinct kind of runners. There were the runners that had on their iPods, and the runners that didn't have them on. Now, look, I love technology. I've got my iPhone right here, and it's never far away from Jasmine. And I don't know, Matt, you got your iPhone. We got some iPhones in the house. Jasmine already has her new one ordered. I'm not supposed to tell that. I may even read it, but when I'm running, I'm a purist. When I'm a runner, I want to be outside in God's creation, and I want to be able to hear God's creation and see God's creation. And so when I'm running, it's me, my shoes, a pair of shorts, and a shirt, and that's it. And I'm running. And so that morning, I would notice that the runners with an iPod, they would kind of run by, and they would just wave, and they would keep on going. But the runners without any kind of music would wave, and they may exchange a greeting, good morning, or man, it's hot. And one woman said, wow, I wish I could run like you. The secret is when I see somebody coming, I run a little faster so they think that I've been running that fast all along. As soon as they get past me, I slow back down again until the next one comes. But I love the sounds of running. One of my favorite routes takes me down a road over which hawks soar. And this spring, it seems as though the hawks have been out in greater numbers than ever, and you can hear them calling as they soar high above the treetops. You can hear their call to one another. And these little bitty birds that kind of chase behind them, just kind of aggravating them. But the hawks, majestic with their arms, with their wings spread wide. This spring, too, for the first time, I smelled tea olive. I kept smelling something that smelled like tea, and someone that knows more about plants than I do said that was tea olive. It was the sweetest. How many of y'all have tea olive in your yard, have smelled tea olive? A lot of you. Sweetest, most beautiful smell. Well, my job is simple over the next few months. Just as I keep my iPod off and as I listen to God's creation and as I look around for all that God has shown me in the world, my job the next few months is to listen and to learn. For my job is to get to know the story of this great church, to get to know each of your stories, to understand who you are, what this church is, and what it's become, and more importantly, what we are to become together. Our text in Hebrews this morning reminds us of that cloud of witnesses that has gone on before us. And in fact, in Hebrews chapter 12, it's actually referring back to Hebrews chapter 11, in which it rehearses the history of the Hebrew Bible and those pillars of the faith that from the very beginning brought us from creation till the time of Christ. And in Hebrews chapter 12, we talk about the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, Christ himself, who is the one to whom we look for our encouragement, for our hope, for our faith, that we might have perseverance in our race. A few months ago, before I ever had any idea that Atlanta First Methodist Church would ever be a place that I might get to serve, a good friend of mine, y'all might remember Roger Kaiser. Roger was one of the finest basketball players to ever play college basketball, and he happened to play at my alma mater, Georgia Tech. I was visiting a dear friend at the hospital, and Beverly Kaiser was there, his wife, and she said, "I have something for you." Now remember, this was before I ever knew that I might be coming to Atlanta First Methodist Church. She said, "I have something for you." I was going through my things the other day, and I found this scrapbook. You know, when Roger and I were out of school and he was teaching, we used to go to First Methodist Church. And I kept some clippings from a pastor named Pierce Harris. And I want to hand you this book, and I want you to read over them because we just loved going to hear Dr. Harris preach. We enjoyed his sermons. And obviously, y'all know, I don't have to tell you, as I've told people that I was going to be the pastor of Atlanta First Methodist. Oh, I remember on Sunday nights going to hear Dr. Harris preach, and the singing and the preaching and the college students that would come. And so as I was looking through this book, I was looking for something that might talk to us today, that might be a good word for me today as I spent my time with you. As I talked about running around Grant Park, I found this quote from Dr. Harris in an article entitled "Simple Gratitude is a Key to Happier Life." Until we have learned to see God in the things about us, to hear God in the things about us, we have not learned to hear or see God anywhere or in anything. The face of every lovely flower, its pink cheeks turned to greet the morning sun, every rolling hillside covered with a brown blanket and decorated by the myriad of colors of the autumn leaves. All these and 1,000 others testify to the nearness of a divine presence and bear witness to the beauty he brings to any human life that bends its will to the divine one, as do the hill and the sky. Until we have learned to listen for God and see God everywhere in everything, we have not heard God anywhere or in anything. God is everywhere. God is in everything. When I hear the hawks, God put them in the air. When I smell the tea olive, God let it come forth from the ground. As we think about what it is that God has called us to do in this place, it is only because God has brought us here. You hear what I'm telling you, that this was given to me before the bishop and the cabinet knew that Jim might be moving or that I might be available. So Beverly Kaiser didn't hand me this. God handed me this as God was preparing me and all of us together that I might be the pastor of this incredible church. Another saint of this church sent me a wonderful note. Had the opportunity last night to call Dr. Bob Osment. He had written me a beautiful note, and I wanted to make sure that I asked if I could share that with you. I enjoyed speaking with him, and he was so encouraging, as I know he was to Jim and has been to Jasmine, and she and I were talking to this mother this morning as he has been to her mom, as her mom serves so faithfully up near where he lives. Bob gave good words of encouragement that I will share with you in just a few. It's a privilege to come into this place. It's a privilege to think about God, what God will do in and through us. This church over the past few years has learned to become the hands and feet of Christ in this city and beyond. We have gone beyond these walls to look after those in need, those who need a hand up, who need some encouragement, who need to know that Christ is alive and well in the world. They need to know we love them and that we care for them. We need to hear God. We need to see God. We need to be God for this city